Welcome to Capital Combat. The name says it all. I'm Hakeem Branch.
Rob Terrell.
And today we're going to recap Showtime's triple header from this past Saturday, June 21st, which featured Devin Alexander versus Russell-Soto-Karass. We had Gary Russell versus Russell-Lomachenko. And we had Robert Guerrero versus Guerrero-Kamegai. Now, the card ended up being pretty good, pretty entertaining.
I was entertained.
Yeah, I was very entertained. And the main event was very entertaining. But let's take it from the bottom and start working our way up. We'll start with Devin Alexander versus Soto-Karass. Go ahead, Rob.
All right, so this was a comeback fight for Alexander, and he needed a nice, stiff, tough test to get rounds in to build that confidence, and he got it versus Soto-Karass. Came in at 148, surprising. It went to super welterweight. He didn't look as chiseled as he normally does, but apparently from what was being said, they were working more on any kind of technical flaws or just working on the skill, trying to get technically proficient again, especially against a guy like Soto-Karass. But from the outset, you could see that he had the speed advantage, especially with that jab. So just fighting from that southpaw stance, he looked really good. He's speed, countering, remaining patient, and utilizing his movement like he did versus Marcos McDonough.
Yeah, this was perfect matchmaking by Devin Alexander's handlers. He looked good. Soto-Karass didn't look good, and a lot of that had to do with Devin Alexander because he got knocked out by Thurman before he knocked out Berto.
Right.
Soto-Karass, I mean, we've seen a lot of him over the last few years. He got knocked out by Maidana, knocked out by Thurman, knocked out Berto. So, he's up and down, but man, he looked super slow in there with Devin. And Devin pretty much did what he wanted. But later on in the fight, Soto-Karass just bit into his mouth guard and just started winging punches. And he started to land a couple of them. Devin still got to keep those hands at home. He likes to drop his hands and get a little lazy with that, with the blocking. That's something he's going to have to work on with somebody that's got a little bit more speed. That's one of those technical flaws that he's got to work on that Rob was talking about. The combinations were a little bit more varied. He had a little bit of dog in him. He bit down when Soto-Karass was like, hey, I'm just going to bring the fight to you. He fought right back. That's a good thing because when Tim Bradley and Sean Porter did that, he had nothing for him. Both of those guys are faster than Soto-Karass, but at least he still bit down and was like, hey, you're not just going to bully me in here.
That's right. The one thing about Devin Alexander and Soto-Karass switched to southpaw a few times, which got him a little bit of success. I was very surprised he did that in the middle rounds. And Devin Alexander has such a speed advantage that he would throw his punches, throw his combinations, but he wouldn't move. At times, he just wouldn't move. Yeah. He would just stay in there after he threw the combinations. And a guy like Soto-Karass is always live. So you want to keep moving because just like you did versus Maidana, you want to turn him, you want to stick him, catch your opponent with a few combinations, and then move because you don't want to stay in their line of fire because guys like that can take punishment and can fire back. But it was a good showing for Devin Alexander. He'll probably get a nice, good eliminator match in his next fight. Kind of not sure who,
right?
But I look forward to see who he will get next.
Yeah, as deep as the welterweight division is, pretty much anybody you match up is going to be a good fight. So we're looking forward to whoever that may be, and it being a good fight. With that said, let's move on to the next fight, which was the most intriguing match on paper and had the most question marks going into it, and that was the vacant featherweight title bout between Gary Russell Jr. and Russell-Lomachenko. Now, in our preview video, we pretty much laid out how we thought the fight was going to go. It went that way, with the exception of the outcome. And now we're going to talk about why happen. In the pre-fight video, we talked about Gary Russell throwing a lot more punches than Lomachenko, having faster hands, and that was really his advantages. Lomachenko had the better amateur pedigree. He had a little more pop on his punches, and he had the better competition. All of that stuff translated into how this fight went. One thing that we didn't talk about that was a big factor in the fight was the footwork. Lomachenko had some excellent footwork in this fight. The way he moved in, out, and cut his angles was superb. You can't ask for anything better when it came to his footwork. I mean, he had Gary Russell swinging that air a lot. He was able to get out of there when he was throwing the combinations. The only knock I had on Lomachenko's performance was he took maybe rounds 6 through 8 off.
Yeah.
And that really factored into the score. I think I gave Russell the first round and those 3 rounds that he took off, and maybe like one other round that was kind of close. But yeah, it was pretty much a very clear-cut win for Lomachenko. And one of the reasons why I would say, besides the footwork, would be their punch selection. I'm gonna let Rob go into that.
All right, so Lomachenko was a lot sharper in his punch selection. He buried his attack up, switching from upstairs to the body, but his body work did a lot and possibly hurt Russell at times, because you could see it, you could feel it, you could hear it.
Yeah.
And we know it disrupted Russell's rhythm, but it really took a little bit of his speed away with those hands. And of course Russell's fast,
right,
but he just didn't have that pop. He kind of just shoe shined through combinations when Lomachenko was in there, but Lomachenko had a nice shell in there when he came in, made the target smaller, and Russell wasn't turning the punches over. He probably wasn't closing his fist. So it's just kind of, I got to score, I got to get something when I got to answer back.
Right. And that's funny because in the pre-fight talks, we read all that stuff, that, the interviews and everything. Russell was saying that Lomachenko still had an amateurish style. And it turned out that Russell looked more amateurish than Lomachenko did.
Very robotic.
Yeah, very robotic. Like Rob said, he was doing a lot of shoe shining. He wasn't punching through the opponent. He wasn't closing his fist. He wasn't turning into his hooks. He wasn't punching through with his straight right hands. He was literally touching Lomachenko, and you can't do that in a boxing match. Like, the difference between what Gary Russell was doing and what Chris Algieri was doing was, you could see when Algieri was landing, he wasn't landing with a lot of power, but he was still snapping Provodnikov's head back and making him reset. The punches that Gary Russell were landing were not doing anything to Lomachenko. He had no fear at all, and it looked like almost he was pulling his punches because he wanted to get so many off at one time. And I guess their game plan was to outwork Lomachenko. That's one of the things that we mentioned in the pre-fight video, that if he were to win, it was going to be based off of him just outworking him. The problem was, it really didn't look like he was landing anything even when he did, which is kind of why Copybox, which I must say is a guy just like you and me, sitting there with a clicker, clicking for a guy. So, I think he got credit for a little less than he actually did land, but then at the same time, it had little to no effect at all anyway. At this point, I have to go back to my man Denny Green and say they are who we thought they were. Lomachenko was the guy we thought he was. Gary Russell was the guy we thought he was. Now it's up to Russell to correct those things that we just said and do it against better competition. For Lomachenko, he's just got to get those rounds in the bank. he's proven himself already. I mean, this is his third pro fight, and he's got a belt. He's in the same class as Donaire. What's my man? Nicholas Walters. Gradovich.
That's right.
It's one more. No, I think that's all the 4 belt holders. Yeah, Lomachenko, Gradovich, Walters, and Donaire. I want to say I'm forgetting somebody, but
and possibly moving up to. Is it moving up to fight Rigondeaux?
No, Rigondeaux would be moving up to fight him.
I would pay to see that fight.
Yeah, that would be an incredible fight. That's a purest wet dream right there. Unfortunately, I don't think that after Rigondeaux's fight in July in Macau, that's not even being televised, I think Top Rank's going to drop him. So that fight's not going to happen, unfortunately.
Depending on the performance.
Yeah, Bob Arum's thrown so much salt his way. I think that relationship is broken beyond repair. That's neither here nor there. For Lomachenko, he's got a lot of options. That division is a little deep, so he can get someone in the ring with him, and he'll probably be even money with anybody he fights. Russell just needs to fight somebody with pulse again. Like, this was his first time really fighting somebody that gave him a little bit of difficulty. He was fighting a lot of come forward, slow, plodding guys. This is his first time fighting a boxer, someone who had some movement, some slickness, and it really undressed him. But he's still a good fighter, and like I said earlier, he is who we thought he was, somebody who hadn't had that competition yet.
I would like to see Russell fight maybe 3 guys in the top 15, you know, starting with maybe like the number 14, 13 guy. You know, someone that can give him rounds, push him a little bit, and make him, you know, vary it up. Because in the fight, he was doing this 2, 3, 4 jab trying to get in on Lomachenko,
right.
And his feet really wasn't fast enough to compare to overtake Lomachenko's.
Yeah, he wasn't closing ground at all. He'd throw like 3 jabs and take 1 step.
Right.
Rather than bam, 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 and he's in there. He was, and by that time, Lomachenko was like, I don't know what you're doing, dog, but I'm over here.
And not to mention, there was almost no lateral movement. What is up with not having lateral movement?
Yeah, I mean, the footwork just had him mesmerized. He never saw that in the ring before, in the pro ranks. He might have seen it in the amateur ranks. He probably did, but you know, that wasn't for 12 rounds. I mean, there's really, I don't have anything else to say about that. You got anything?
I just noticed the huge size difference between the two, height and
we did talk
weight.
about that. I mean, the weights were the same, but you could tell by their body styles that Lomachenko was a big man. I believe he won a gold medal at 132, which, I mean, doesn't seem that big, but then he comes down to fight 126. He's a big guy. Gary Russell's not a big guy. He's got short arms. He's short, period. And yeah, he's got some work to do.
No, nothing. Yeah, nothing else.
All right, let's move on to the main event, where we had Robert the Ghost Guerrero returning his first fight since losing to Floyd Mayweather Jr. back in last May against Guerrero-Kamegai, tough guy from over in Japan who came over here. We initially, and most people's eyes, thought it was a showcase fight. Turned out to be a fight of the year contender because Kamegai wasn't having it. He said, I'm here to fight. I'm here to make you fight. And if you're not ready, you're going down, brother. Go ahead, Rob.
All right, so if I'm not mistaken, Kamegai is 24-1 with 21 knockouts?
Yeah, now he's 24-1. Yeah, 24-1-1 at that point.
Yeah, so we knew the guy had power. We didn't know about his chin, but he showed a spectacular one because Robert Guerrero came to this fight and he looked more chiseled than he has in the past because he's doing CrossFit now. He's sponsored by CrossFit and Reebok.
Right.
And let's be honest, he actually looked pretty good. I mean,
yeah.
He looked solid. He looked a little bit faster, more explosive. And he was landing some leather on Kamegai through those first 3 to 4 rounds. And I mean, I was surprised that this guy stayed upright.
And you know, one of the things that I didn't think about beforehand that probably played a factor into Kamegai staying on his feet. Robert Guerrero used to be a featherweight, and he worked his way up to welterweight. Kamegai is a career welterweight. Like, you could see when he was walking out to the ring, that cat was huge.
He was bigger than Guerrero.
He was definitely bigger than Guerrero, and I think they said he might have fought at 154 a few times. So the guy was big, and I think that helped him absorb some of those punches. I can't even remember the last time Guerrero had a knockout, but he did land some good showy punches. But so did Kamegai.
Yeah, we thought Guerrero was gonna box this guy, not box circles around, but box him enough to like really put him down late. And at a certain point, he had no choice. He had to get in there and he had to fight. You know, fight is what we saw, because these guys were landing everything. They were the kitchen sink, the tub, whatever you could find, they was throwing it. And it ended up with a blistering right hand to Guerrero's left eye, which was almost immediate. It swole up, and I mean, by the 8th round, it was damn near completely closed.
Yeah, almost like Russell-Lomachenko in Algeria. The second time we brought that up again. He hit him, he closed up. I mean, he was still scoring a lot, so there was really no reason for them to stop the fight. But I mean, the eye was in bad shape. He's probably going to be out maybe the rest of the year, December at the earliest. But a lot of the way Guerrero fought had to do with Kamegai not allowing him to box, because there was a few times where Guerrero was like, yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and box this guy, throw a few combinations, and bow, left hook to the body. I'm gonna stop that, and we're just gonna stand right here in this phone booth. Kamegai landed a lot of heavy shots. Hats off to Guerrero for being tough and taking those shots, because he landed some great left hands to the body. We talked about that being a good shot of his. And he also landed a lot of good right hands as well. So we really have to give our hat off to Kamegai for coming over here and showing that he was not a chump and he was not going to lay down. And even with all the flaws that we talked about in the breakdown, he didn't let that stop him. And a lot of that stuff showed up in the fight, but he was tough enough to weather the storm. And while he wasn't winning rounds, he made the fight look competitive, kind of like the last couple of Mayweather fights. Well, I should say him and Cotto and him and Maidana, where they were competitive as far as the action going on, but as far as who was winning the rounds, it wasn't close.
This was a lot like the Figueroa Arakawa fight, and I enjoyed every bit.
Oh yeah, that too.
I don't know where they're finding these Japanese guys in these gyms, but I want to see more of them, because these guys are really making a name for themselves, at least coming over and being competitive outside of their country.
Yeah, and that's going to give Kamegai another shot too. Like I said, if you got welterweight in the name, the division is deep. Light, super, regular welterweight, you just throw those names in there and you got a good fight. Looking forward that now we got Kamegai's name in that mix. I'd love to see him fight again. Maybe a Maidana, maybe Thurman or somebody. You know, like, man, I mean, those would be some really exciting fights with a lot of head trauma.
Yeah, I mean, even if it's just like some gatekeeper or just he's gonna
go in there with Soto-Karass.
Yeah, just open a card, just make it entertaining.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, just throw him in there with somebody, and he's gonna put on a good show. And I want to see him again. I hope you guys want to see him again too, because I think he laid his heart out there for us, and I think he should be rewarded well for it. You got anything else?
Not at this point. I hope everyone caught World Series of Fighting, because there was some good action going on there. That was
oh man, Glory Kickboxing.
And Glory Kickboxing. I'm telling you, we can't say this enough. Watch Glory Kickboxing. You may not know the names, but you will enjoy the action.
Oh yeah. There's one name you should know, Andy Ristic, because he's the truth. He did get knocked out one time, but that was still a great fight. In the fight he got knocked out in. In the fight, I've seen him fight maybe like 5 times, since they've been putting Glory on. It's only been around for maybe a couple years. But he's either going to knock that person out or he's going to get knocked out. And that's must-see TV. So if you hear the name Andy Risty, you need to watch Glory Kickboxing and check that guy out. That's it for this episode, guys. Thanks for watching. Hope you guys enjoyed the fights. Hope you guys enjoyed this episode. If you do, thumbs up button. There you go. Share it. Share it with your friends on Facebook, Google+, whatever social network you on, Twitter, all that good stuff. If you'd like to contact us, you can hit up the comment section. You can hit us up on Facebook, Capital Combat, Google+, same name. You can hit us up on email, capitalcombat@gmail.com. Either way, we'll get back to you. So, that's it for this one. We'll catch you guys in the next episode. Peace.
This is round one, and you've already lost. They don't seem to see that everything we've done is coming and gone. My fists are on fire. I perform till I perspire. My demons are in a rage. Keep thinking that it's a game. I kick crime, hurricane. I told them I don't play. I'm liquid.
Black Street Fighter.